Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we are reviewing Transformers Legacy Elita-1. This figure I got my hands on, I believe 2 weeks ago, or maybe 3. I got this figure in hand about mid-July. For a great deal too, only $5. $5, brand new in box. So yeah, Elita-1 here is a deluxe class figure, both pricing and scale-wise. And comes with 3 accessories. Those 3 accessories being the headpiece for the alt mode to represent her head crest, which plugs into the top of the alt mode, just like that. There you go. And 2 guns, both molded in this trans blue plastic that is also used for the windshield for Elita-1, meaning that both of all 3 of these parts right here and here were all molded on the same sprue. My guess on why they chose to make these clear was so they could at least get a little more out of, well, the sprue, instead of using a new color or having to use like red but then paint it silver or gray. So instead they opted to make these blue. Because if I remember correctly, around this time during Wave 1, 2, and I think a little bit of Wave 3 of Legacy, they were doing these things called Energon weapons. So Wave 1 with like Skids, Kickback, and RC. All 3 of those figures had Energon weapons. RC had these blue discs, or these blue like half circles that combined into a disc. Kickback had those giant swords that can combine into the back of a Locust mode. And Skids had that Energon axe. Then for the Voyagers, I'm trying to think of who... Was there another Voyager for Legacy Wave 1? I can't remember right now, but for one of the Voyagers, Bulkhead, he had that Energon shoulder cannon. And obviously for our leader class, Galvatron didn't have one, but Optimus did. The Energon axe and sword. So, Wave 2 was bound to have a few Energon weapons of their own, with Blitzwing having the fists, and Elita-1 having this. And I believe G-Axis, he had this smoky clear gun that was at a smaller scale than his main gun that was supposed to go to Laser Optimus. So yeah, that's a neat thing. But yeah, with that being said, a little bit of story time out of the way about these. We can toss this to the side for now and get into Elita. Elita-1 is this nice, kind of small, buggy car. It's a little messy at a little messy at the back, bit of a gap. The feet just sit there. Underside of the alt mode, I mean, it's a Transformer, but it's not great, I won't lie. But the top of the alt mode and sides of the alt mode look lovely. Same with the front as well. And I really do like the colors we got here. We have this nice white coat of paint for the headlights, a red kind of trim, or I guess not. Well, yeah, we got a trim up here around the windshield and bit on the front of the hood, but then we also have some red paint here and here for the hood and near the headlights. We have a white bumper decal, or yeah, not decal, a white paint job for the bumper here, along with some more white paint here on the hood. The hubcaps are painted white and are molded out of black plastic because, it's all one piece of a tire. The rest of the figure is molded in either the red plastic, the pink plastic, or in the one particular case of this piece, this trans blue. And I guess the feet are or I guess the palm pieces on this figure are molded in this kind of pinkish, this reddish magenta that we got here. But that's kind of it for a color scheme and, well, I guess other things. Almo does have some nice little... Ooh, man. I ate something earlier today. It's not really agreeing with me too much. Sorry about that. What I was going to say is Elita-1 does have some rear view mirrors. That's what they're called. But they don't really do much because if you look at from this angle, these mirrors are getting completely blocked by this giant chunk of plastic here. Elita-1 does have some back headlights though, which are lovely. If we remove the feet here, let's snag those off, leaves a bit more of a cleaner section, but then you'll just have these parts jutting out. I do feel like this alt mode's good for Elita-1. Looks lovely. Looks nice. But I do think it would have done better if this was moved up to a Voyager scale. Because I feel like every Elita-1 figure I've seen does some sort of hover or flying vehicle so far. And Power of the Prime's Elita-1 did a lovely job. You know, some parts were a little larger, like the forearms felt a little big. And I guess that's my only real issue with Power of the Prime's Elita-1. The alt mode was nice, the combined mode was decent, and the rest of the figure just looked lovely. Plus, it would have scaled quite a bit better, or it scales quite a bit better with 86 Prime here, but we're not there yet with scaling, so we won't talk about it more. We'll talk about it more when we get to him. But I do feel like Elita-1 here could have benefited a lot if she was moved up to a Voyager class price point. Because I do believe Giaxis was the only other Voyager class in Wave 2. And nowadays we do 4 Deluxes, 2 Voyagers, I believe, then 1 or 2 Leaders. The Leader one changes pretty often, but I do believe that's usually the case. And, you know, obviously the 2 Commander classes a year, but, you know, I'm just going to ignore that because we're not really talking about Commanders. But yeah, Elita-1 here is lovely. I like the... Okay, I forgot the name. Spoiler! Wait, is that a spoiler? No, spoiler's a different thing. I think? Nah, I'm forgetting my car knowledge right now. That's not good. But, alt mode's nice. I like the pinks, the reds, the bit of magentas, the whites. These kind of pastel and darker colors blend really nicely into this alt mode. Just making an overall really lovely looking alt mode. It's real eye candy. That's the word I'm looking for. It's an eye candy piece. It looks great. And honestly feels really nice to handle. You know, nothing wants to come off. You know, nothing's gonna fall off if I shake the figure. You know, obviously the wheels shake because, well, just how they're connected. And the feedback here are kind of, they flop a little bit, but that's a my copy thing, because my copy is also just a lot more loose than my buddy's. Because my buddy got this around the time the Wave 2 released. He got his figure early, just like I got Tarantulas early. Can't remember if he got his Elita-1 from the same place I got Tarantulas. But I ended up getting Beast Wars Tarantulas much earlier than quite a few people because of the Amazon and Hasbro Pulse pre-orders being much further. And some stores down here in the United States were just able to get figures like Tarantulas, Elita-1, and Knockout much earlier than other stores. Funnily enough, the only one I couldn't find was Point Blank. No, wait, no. Point Blank's Wave 3, ain't he? Never mind. Either way, though, with that all being said and done with, let's go into size comparison. So, for Deluxe class, we'll bring in a mold everyone might have, or at least should have, Kingdom Sideswipe. Getting them on the turntable right here, you can kind of get a feel for their size. There you go. Helps kind of show off their scaling a bit better, I believe. But looking at the 2 figures, they look quite nice. I do like how they scale. But like I've said before, I do feel like Elita-1 could have benefited a lot more if she had her scale increased to a Voyager. And honestly, I'd love to get my hands on a Voyager scaled version of this figure. If not that, maybe a Voyager scaled version of some other Elita-1 that I could maybe retool into some sort of, I guess, more G1ified. Well, I mean, Elita-1 was always G1, but you know what I'm trying to say, I think. Anyway, Voyager class, we have Legacy Speedia 5000 Road Hauler. Comparing the 2 here, you know, we're comparing Legacy to Earthrise, because this mold originated as Grapple from the Earthrise line. But yeah, comparing the 2 here, Elita-1 is definitely much smaller than this figure, but this figure also just has a really large alt mode. Like, even 86 Prime here, if he was in this alt mode, he'd be shorter than this guy, I believe. If not, yeah, he would be a little shorter, because this guy's got length on him. That sounded weird. Road Hauler in alt mode is much longer than 86 Prime in his alt. Well, maybe not much longer, but he is a bit longer than 86 Prime in alt mode. So yeah, comparing the two, though, looks lovely, scales nicely. And finally, for our final size class, you all probably saw him on the side of the camera, 86 Leader Class Sludge. As this is one of the few Leader Class figures I have that at least show their size well in their price point. Obviously, we have 86 Galvatron up there. We have 86 Soundwave, but he's a Voyager scaled leader. And I don't want to transform 86 Megatron. It's intuitive, but not intuitive fun for me, you know? It's a bit of a chore to transform him. My issue with 86 Megs is just his stuff doesn't stick together on my copy, so that's my main issue. But we're not here to talk about Megatron, we're here to talk about Elita. And comparing the two figures together, you know, they look lovely, they scale nicely. I keep saying they scale nicely, but, you know, we can't really get a real... Well, I mean, I guess we can. We have the bones of this guy. But, you know, what am I going to do? Go to a museum, scale the two? Yeah, let me just bring my car into your museum and scale that. Let's see how accurate that is. But with that all being said, time to transform Elita-1. So, the first thing you want to do... I keep shaking the camera, stop that. First thing you want to do is take the feet here and flip them upward till they lock in securely, like so. Then you want to kind of just pull a little bit on the sides till they... Damn, there you go. There we go. You want to pull at the sides a bit so they unlock. Same thing on this side, just like so. Then you kind of want to bend the knees and split them because they're on a tab. Then collapse the shins to the rest of the leg. Collapse these inner shin pieces together. And that should fill in the leg nicely. Next thing you want to do, rotate the waist here so we can just move the legs forward to allow for future clearance. Next thing, bring these forearms down just a touch so they untab from this clear plastic piece like this. Same thing on the other side. Then bend at the elbows and rotate. This will allow us, or not the elbows, bend at the elbows and rotate at the bicep. Just like so. So, we want to bend at the elbow, then rotate at the bicep, then rotate the fist. Then next thing you want to do is come to the top, or I guess the front of the alt mode, pull at the sides a little bit, then kind of just shift it all upward, as all this material here is all on just this one white hinge here. But yeah, you want to shift it upward, just like this. Then shift it backwards a little bit, open it up, and flip this piece in. And there's a little tab here that goes into a slot back there, right there. Not sure how well you guys can see that. There you go. That's tab right there goes into this, or that slot goes into this tab. It doesn't really tab in on my copy, but it does sit there, so I suppose it does a good enough job. But with that all being said, we have Legacy Elita-1 in hand. Elita-1 here looks lovely. I like her a lot, actually. I like the more diverse color spread that we have instead of it all being red. And, well, with it all being red, basically, it was just a lot of red on the alt mode. I liked it because it worked a lot better for the alt mode. But if we got a predominantly red Elita-1 without all these kind of accent colors, I don't think I would have liked it as much. I like the pops of white, the bits of pink here, here, and here. Then these like magenta red colors. Kind of like a maroon a little bit out of this palm plastic. It's nice. I like it. It adds some much needed breakup. And it just overall makes the figure look much nicer. And the figure does feel really good. You know, on my copy, the legs are really loose, as you can see, which I'm not a huge fan of, but I can deal with it. You know, it's not the worst thing in the world. But, you know, it does concern me a little bit, because I do feel like if I just leave it, these will get way worse over time. Because, you know, if I want to move it, like, up just a little bit, it's going to fall down on its own. Now, obviously, if I move it up here, it's going to stay. And this leg's pretty much fine. And the knees are fine on these figures, so that's good. Now, same thing goes for the other knee. But besides the legs, everything else is actually really solid on the figure. And that makes me really happy, because at least that means I'll be able to pose Elita-1 much nicer. She'll be easier to pose. Elita-1 here, though, takes quite a bit of... stuttering. This Elita-1 here takes a lot of visual cues from her G1 appearance and Siege appearance, I believe. Taking in the kind of more, I guess, detailed face of the Siege figure, I believe. But then mixing in a lot of the colors and kind of smaller aspects that the G1 Elita-1 has, along with doing a few of its own things. With the shins here, taking, I believe, more visual cues just based on how the alt mode looked. And obviously, with them being part of the alt mode, this is just the entire back end of the car split in half, then put here as Elita's shin. But it looks nice. I like it. And I do like the more blocky aspect of Elita-1 here. I feel like we need more fembots with this overall kind of more blockier design, not the really smooth or curvy design that we've gone from G1. Siege tried going for that, and their Siege Elita-1 sucks. Infamously terrible figure. But, like, looking at her now, this figure has a nice blocky aspect to her. And it looks really nice. I like that. It looks great. And I much prefer this... I much prefer this over just that blocky... No. I much prefer this over that more really... My God. Holy crap. I much prefer the blockier aesthetic over the original curvier, kind of roundish design, is what I was trying to say. Dear God. Yes, as I was trying to say, I much prefer this aesthetic. And I like the colors. The backpack's a little clunky, but nothing to be really irritated over. If anything, it just means you have an easier time holding the figure, as she does not have a 3mm port adaptation. So if you have like a claw stand, I think I have one in here. I don't. Wait, do I? Oh yeah, here it is. 1 second. Like if we have one of these claw stands, let me put this thing together. Where's the claw? Here it is. It's going to have an easier time just snagging over some of these panels here. Obviously, no, this isn't me really trying to display her, because I don't think anyone wants to pose her like that. But, like as reference, the claw holds onto this securely. Granted, I don't think the claw is going to stay on that too well. This is a Marvel Legends stand, and I kind of just shaved it down to have a 3mm peg on there. But because of that, I couldn't get this to work, so I had to shave that around too. It works, but it's not great, because I'm also broke, so I don't have the money to buy a Bandai stand. Okay, but back to the figure. She looks lovely. The backpack's not too big of an issue for me. Oh my God. Because I'm not going to really have her with her arms back or legs kicked all the way back, because this is as far as her leg goes back, by the way. That's as far as it will go. So, you know, that's lovely. You know, it kicks decently. Goes... I just realized how limited her legs are, actually. That's not a whole split. We'll go over articulation real quickly. Head can look up that far, down that far, side to side at the head. That's as far as it goes, left and right, unfortunately. Left and right, that's as far as it goes. Arms can go up that far, down that... Oh, I need to quit hitting the camera. Back that far, but if you want to move the backpack a bit, back that far, then send the backpack back. It can go forward that far, up that far. I think we already talked about out, but it can go out that far. 360 rotation at the bicep. It's on one of those Martian pegs with the extra tab out, so I think that's more of a secure connection. 360 rotation at the wrist. Elbow bend past 90. Waist rotation, it goes a full 360. Entire leg can only go back that far. Kick forward that far. Just like that. But it can kick higher, but it goes out more. And legs can only go up that far. There's a rotation at the thigh. Not a full 360 because of this piece, but honestly, I don't mind. Knees bend that far. That I think is exactly 90. And ankle pivots are extreme because of how she transforms. I can't remember what I was going to say before I started doing articulation. So we're just going to go to comparisons and final thoughts. So, for comparisons, don't fall over. For deluxe class, we'll bring in 86 Cup. Comparing the two together, Elita-1 is your average deluxe size nowadays, I believe. I believe she would scale much nicer compared to Wheeljack, or I guess any smaller Carbot, or just equal to size Carbot, because Cup here is a Cybertronian, so his alt mode naturally makes him bigger. I'm not sure if that's actually just what it is or not. Cup is quite a bit bigger, or taller. Cup is quite a bit taller than Elita-1 here. But it's not bad. I don't mind it too much. She looks lovely next to him. Actually, we'll move her a little closer to the center. Get that knee straightened out. Next up, for Voyager class, we have 86 Thundercracker. Thundercracker here is really blue on camera. My God. I did not realize just how deep his blue looks on camera. Wow. That looks like a rich blue. Goodness. In person, the blue is a little more pale. You know, it's not as eye-hurting as that is. He looks more like, I think their name was Ion Storm. The blue Rainmaker from that new 4-pack that's coming out. I think that's what his name is, Ion Storm. The Blue Seeker mold, or variant, of this guy from those made-to-order packs. He almost looks like that on the camera. My God. Damn! Comparing the two figures here, though, you can clearly tell the size difference. You know, there's a budget difference, so that's to be expected. They look nice, though. I like it. Next up, we'll put Elita in the middle for these three. We have 86 Prime, 86 Megatron, and finally, straighten his legs out a bit, 86 Grimlock. Comparing to three leader class figures, all at different heights, Optimus being the smallest of the three, these are, first of all, just very large figures to be putting on this. But comparing them all, Elita is very short, and this is one... wow. This is one reason why I wanted her to be taller, maybe a different alt mode, so she would scale better with Megatron and Optimus. Granted, she scaled perfectly with what we currently had from Earthrise and Siege. She scaled nicely. But I want a new Elita-1 to scale with these two. Especially with the new Skybound comic. I need to stop stuttering. We will probably get a new figure of her because we now have the Studio Series comic line with that very first figure, or I guess the first two figures so far, being Nautica and that commander-priced Skybound Optimus with the Megatron arm and stuff. You know, what was it? What did he say? It was like something about going on the offense. But yeah. Final thoughts on Elita? Great figure. And she's going for really cheap now, too. So I'm certain. I need to quit holding out that S. I am certain. I am certain that you will find Elita-1 for a good price. And if you don't, just hold off for a little bit. You will. Elita-1's one of those figures that's really decent, but not decent enough for people to really want to keep her in a lot of cases. So you'll find lots of listings on this character. Granted, you probably won't be seeing one from me unless they make a new one that's superior to this. But until they do, you're definitely going to just be having a good time with this figure. She poses decently. She looks lovely on a shelf. She is a little small compared to our two here. But, you know, she scales well with 86B, so I don't got too much to complain about. She looks nice, though. I like her. And I feel like a lot of you guys would like her, too. She's a solid enough figure. Fun enough. You know, she's enough. But yeah, that's about it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Hope to see you around. Goodbye.